channel if you happen to be new here. My name is Jess. Today I have a legitimate book review. So the first part of this book review is going to be non-spoilery. The second part of the book review will be a spoilery, so I will let you know when it is going to change from one to the other. But today I wanted to talk about a book that I did not think that I was going to like, but I absolutely loved, and that would be Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Spoilers, like I said, I absolutely love this book. However, there is a reason why I love this book, and I can see why a lot of people may not be as into it as, say, I am, and that would be because this is an own voices book by John Green, and it deals with OCD, it deals with thought spirals, fears of infections, things like that. As someone who has OCD, I did really relate to this book, and that is why I think I loved it so incredibly much. It is very nice to have representation. I've always heard people say, you know, we want more representation in books and things like that. And I've always appreciated that and thought that it was very important, but I did not fully understand it until I had a book in my hands. I was able to read a book that actually had representation for me in it. Obviously, I am represented a lot more often in books than other people. However, I did really appreciate this book because, as I said, it is own voices about OCD, and I really enjoyed that. This book follows our main character, Asa, the character who suffers from OCD, and she knows this boy Davis from her past. They met when his mother died and her father died, and they went to a camp together. You find out early on in this book that his father has actually gone missing, and the reason why that is such a big deal is his father is they're actually like billionaires. They're essentially incredibly rich, and there is a reward for any kind of information, and Asa gets caught up in trying to locate his father, and she does reconnect with Davis, and she struggles daily with trying to maintain normality while also suffering from OCD. There's a little bit of a budding romance in this. That is not a spoiler whatsoever. Obviously, it is a contemporary novel, so there will be a little bit of romance in it, which is kind of what I think of when I think of contemporary. It follows Asa and her best friend Daisy trying to track down his father and reap the rewards, the benefits of the reward. This book is at times very hard to read, but not necessarily in a way where it is unbelievable. As somebody who has OCD, I think this is a very good reference if you're looking for a little bit more information on OCD, if you're wanting to connect with somebody on it, if you have somebody in your life that has it, if you have it personally. I think this is a very relatable book, but there are points in this book that were a little bit hard for me to read. This was a book I had to read for short periods at a time and then set down just because as someone with OCD, it was a little bit triggering for me, so be wary of that. If you do have OCD, this may cause like a trigger for you, but I still really enjoyed this book. I liked the story. It was very fun to read Asa and Daisy trying to track down her father. I loved Daisy as a character. Daisy, it was definitely who I wanted to be when I was younger. She's very outgoing, she's very fun, she does write like a Star Wars fanfic online. I thought she was really great, so all the supporting characters in the story as well are very good. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars just because for me it is very relatable, and I loved all of the characters. I even loved Asa, even though she seemed a little bit unlovable at points. She does seem a little bit kind of cold to people, which is kind of a byproduct of OCD because you're so much in your mind that it is kind of hard to connect with people. But I still really enjoyed this book, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking, like I said, for a little bit more information on OCD, or you have somebody in your life that has OCD and you want to see kind of what their struggle is like. I think this is a very accurate representation of that. Now, moving into the spoiler bits of this book, I did love this book, but I thought the ending was kind of lackluster for me. I still did give it 5 out of 5 stars just because I couldn't get enough of it when I was reading it when I was able to. The reason why the ending of this book was a little bit lackluster for me is you do find out later that Davis, they find his father, well, Asa finds his father, Asa and Daisy, in an underground like sewer. And the reason why I still was kind of okay with it is I like the storyline. I like the missing dad storyline. I like these struggles with Davis's brother and how Asa is sort of able to help and connect with him despite her OCD struggles and her kind of like reserves about touching people, about being near people, things like that. I did find it a little bit odd that they just found his body and then that was the end of it. There wasn't a whole lot of embellishment on that. It just kind of like that was the end of the story. The other thing that I did really love about the story, however, is that despite their budding romance and like traditional contemporary books, they didn't stay together. She just couldn't do it at the time, and she couldn't give to Davis what he was expecting because obviously, as I said, they have a romance in this book, and kissing and being close and intimate with somebody was very hard for Asa, and I can definitely relate to that as well. So I really liked that. I thought that it was very realistic that she wasn't able to continue at her current state with having a relationship with somebody, but she was still able to do that later on. There's a little excerpt in this where she goes on to have children and a relationship and a husband and things like that. So I thought that that was very nice to read because obviously as somebody who is currently married, I did still struggle with having like physical and intimate relationships with people when I was younger, but obviously I have been able to overcome that and have a relationship. So I really loved the way that John Green was able to make this so believable. He didn't make it, I've always wanted a book where the ending was not what you expected it to be in a different kind of way. Like, as somebody who has OCD, it was very nice to read the ending of this book just because things weren't perfect. They didn't end perfectly, and I think that's very realistic to how OCD is. Nothing is going to be perfect. It is something that you do struggle with for the entirety of your life. It isn't something that you're able to cure. Even if you are on medication for OCD, it may make it tolerable, but obviously mental disorders and things like that are something that you have to constantly treat. It is not something that you're able to just get rid of, so I really enjoyed that. I absolutely love the writing style in this book as well. As somebody who is not a huge fan of John Green, I think this book is very well written. It does have the John Green touch to it where he writes a lot of like philosophical things into the book that sort of sometimes don't make sense, but I still do appreciate those little bits from him. I'm definitely becoming more and more of a fan of John Green just based on this book. As I've said before, the only real books by him that I've ever, enjoyed would be Looking for Alaska, but as I've said before, I read that when I was very young. And then obviously I have also read The Fault in Our Stars, and I liked that, but not nearly as much. I just really enjoyed this book, and I think that it is definitely worth the read. Like I said, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, although I don't know too many people who would if you don't necessarily have OCD. I hear a lot of people say that it isn't as well written as some of his other stuff, but as somebody who doesn't like John Green, I saw a definite difference in this book, and it's definitely worth checking out. I think the story is very good. I think the story is very cute, but also very relatable. Alright guys, so that is it for today's video. I can't believe I did an actual book review. I don't normally do them just because I have trouble speaking factually about books, and I know that this review is probably kind of all over the place, but I did have requests for more of them, so I'm giving you more of them, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!